All right. What's up? Happy Monday, everybody. Let's wait for the internet to give us another day and tell us that we can be live. You guys know me. I got to see it because there's no on site producer here. And I have seen it. YouTube up, YouTube won. Rockfin coming in third here. Well, Twitter always wins. Twitter's always first. But YouTube's been a consistent second. I almost feel like it might not be much of a competition anymore. I don't know what to say about that. What's up, everybody? Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. I guess it's pretty much afternoon everywhere. We're coming a couple hours later today. Usually we're at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. We're a little bit later today because my guest was available a little bit later, and we are going to have a much-needed climate episode. But first, let me give a quick shout out to the people that make this show possible. Our friends over at Indie Left. Indie Left is the only place to find all the content creators you know and love. They curate a bunch of streams and articles, and they make a nice list for you that they update twice a day. How convenient is that? To find out everything that got going on and to subscribe to their Discord community, they're dancing over the Discord. Check them out at independentleft.media. That's independentleft.media. All right, without further ado. So there are a lot of things going on in the climate from Seattle to Miami. Oh, and, everywhere else in the world. And to break some of it down with us, we have a climate scientist. He's been on the show before. And just to let everyone know, he is speaking on his own behalf. But please welcome back to the show, Peter Kalmus. Peter, what's up, buddy?
Hey, so, things are getting hot. I tend to feel a little more angry. When there's heat waves like this that are just kind of climate supercharged things that we would never have seen without in a world without global heating. It just I'm always thinking about climate, but when it's a heat wave like this, my mind just latches on and I can't really think about anything else. And so that's where I am at right now, just doing my work, doing my research, thinking like, geez, it almost seems too late to be writing a proposal about the future of deadly humid heat, right? Which is one of the things I'm working on. It seems a little bit too late to be studying, what's going to be happening to coral reefs in the coming decades, which is another big project that I have. So, but I keep going and I keep trying to raise my voice as much as I can. My theory of change is that what we need is a critical mass of people that realizes just how deep of an emergency climate and ecological breakdown really is, and they place it at the not in the top 3 of their priority list, but the very top of their priority list. And then once we have enough people like that, people that are maybe kind of freaking out a little bit like me, then the policies will follow. They can't help but follow. And until that happens, the policies won't follow because the politicians are too bought and sold, too bought by the corporations, which they just want to continue the. I don't get this mindset at all, but for some reason, they're willing to burn everything down to see some number in some database, which they call their bank account, grow. It's an insane perspective. But unfortunately, a lot of
you realize it's all for nil if we're not on this planet anymore. Right. You know that, right? Like that number doesn't mean anything real quick.
It's like their brains are poisoned. And they also don't understand that money is just a social contract. Like these billionaires like Bezos with their space programs, it's none of that is real. It's monopoly money. And, if the mass gets pissed off enough, they'll come and take it away real quick. So, it's easy for them, I think, to be out of touch and feel like somehow they're not in this together with us. But, when enough people feel like they have no other option, even the billionaires are going to have some serious comeuppancing to deal with, I think.
So let's start in Miami. That condo just collapsed in Miami, and now the official word as of right now is they're investigating what exactly caused this. So I guess popular consensus, and I really want your thorough take on all this, Peter. They don't know exactly what caused this Surfside condo in Miami to collapse, but I think the one thing that we know for sure is that there is Florida is sinking. and especially that part near the coast in Miami is sinking, that puts a stress on buildings. So we know that for sure. Is that correct? And what's your take on this whole thing?
Well, so I've been my take on so much is going on right now that I haven't done a deep dive into like the latest sort of engineering reports, et cetera. So I'm not really an expert to speak on the foundations of that particular building. I'm kind of waiting to see, when sort of the digested reports come out. It wouldn't surprise me if it had something to do with sea level rise, but I can't really say that with any certainty. For many, many years, I have been personally surprised that there hasn't been a major real estate collapse in the Miami area due to, for example, sunny day flooding, right, which is a separate issue, but one which I suppose could certainly has implications for underground infrastructure like sewers. It probably has implications for things like building foundations. But again, I'm not.
So what qualifies the designation of sunny day flooding? Kind of unpack that.
It just means that there's no storm surge, there's no hurricane. It's just a high tide, which because of sea level rise is higher than what the local infrastructure was designed to deal with. So you get water kind of coming out of the sewers, you get water in the streets, because that area wasn't designed to deal with that level of sea surface level. So there's no end in sight. I mean, one of the longest kind of time frame impacts of climate breakdown and global heating is sea level rise, right? Because the giant ice cubes that are the ice sheets, they have on Antarctica and on Greenland, they have a very long. Things could get super hot. Things could surpass 3 degrees Celsius. It's still going to take those things some time to, fully respond to the warmer planetary temperatures and melt. So sea level rise will slowly rise over, hundreds of years. So the long-term prospects, in my opinion, of Miami real estate are not looking good. And I would not recommend investing in that particular real estate area. I actually, this is, I kind of feel like the sooner our financial systems respond to the reality of climate breakdown, the better. Sure. So, because it's going to collapse. For example, a lot of things are going to collapse, but I would say real estate in coastal Miami will collapse. The price of real estate in coastal Miami will collapse, if not other parts of it. People will suffer because of that. But the sooner it happens, the fewer people will suffer, and the less these kind of predatory developers will get away with, in my opinion.
No. I mean, hey, no pushback here on that one. I mean, I think that, look, you got to take the profit incentive away from the capitalist to really see change here when it comes to climate breakdown. And there are a few little glimmers of hope out there, which I'd like your take on that. I mean, you do see even some of these Wall Street firms are trying to not invest as much in fossil fuels. And I don't think it's because they have some moral high ground or because they really care about the climate. I think it's because they just realize that the future's just not there. Like they just
it's a shitty investment.
Sure. Right. Exactly. Which, hey, as long as it stops, I'll take it. I don't care what their moral composition is. If they stop destroying the planet, I don't care what their motivation is. I'm just glad they're not destroying the planet anymore.
I'm with you. That's what I want, is a livable planet for many, many generations. There's something else that's been coming up in my mind a lot the last few days, which is that there's so much confusion I see, for example, on Twitter about.
Wait, hold on. Confusion on Twitter. All right, that's a bit of a stretch, but I'll allow it. Please continue.
So people say things like "we're fucked," "it's too late." You see that a lot in discussions about climate change, and I just want everyone to know one of the most important things to know about climate breakdown is that it's a continuum. It's like an escalator going to like a really hellish earth. And, the escalator basically doesn't have a top. It keeps going higher and higher and higher. It doesn't really end. And we're on one of the lowest steps right now. And every 1/10 of a degree warmer it gets a little bit worse. All of these impacts get worse. The fires get worse. The heat waves get worse. The flooding gets worse. The storms get worse. The stress to our agricultural system, the global breadbaskets, simultaneous, failures. That gets those risks get worse. Geopolitics gets worse. Every little 1/10 of a degree, things get worse. So it's not like, oh, it's too late. The second thing people need to know is that we're not going to, make things. It's like a ratcheting levels of impact. And once you get to we're at like the 1.2 degrees Celsius level right now. Once you get to that level, you can't go backwards on any, time scale that is relevant to any of us. Like, it would take many, many, many generations, possibly hundreds, maybe even longer of years for things to start cooling off, for, even longer than that for ice sheets to start reforming. So, the currents, the atmospheric dynamics, all of the changes that we're seeing, the ecosystem changes, that's all effectively permanent. You can't go back. It's not like, the park's got too much plastic bottles in it. We could just go there and clean it up anytime we want. It's a completely different kind of pollution, which is effectively permanent. So it is actually critical to fight as hard as we can to keep the maximum level of warming, however bad we let things get, to its lowest possible point. Because I don't believe we will stop below 1.5 degrees Celsius of warming. A few years ago, that's what everyone was hopeful. But so we're going to probably go, in my opinion, go past that. But
where do you think we're going to stop?
I can't say. People are waking up fast, but the political systems, the corporate systems, the finance systems, the moral and ethical systems of our society are so deeply entrenched and so deeply corrupted that I think it's a very, very nonlinear thing. People are waking up. People are getting angry. I welcome that. People should be angry. I welcome that anger. That's a very valid emotional response. But it's also very nonlinear. It's very hard to say how much anger it's going to take to finally take the candy away from these corporations and billionaires that are killing everything, right? I just can't say it. It has to happen, because these billionaires and corporations, like you already pointed out, they're not going to change anything out of the kindness of their heart, and their brains are messed up, right? They think that they're going to be safe from these impacts, so they don't. Yeah. There's a million ways the human brain can rationalize and sort of convince itself that, I'm really the good guy. We have to take things slow and incremental. We can't disrupt capitalism too much, because then there's a million ways that they I don't think any billionaire or corporate executive thinks they're actually the bad guy. But they're not going to make the kind of radical changes that we need right now. So anyway,
I think in many ways they're kind of sociopathic. I mean, to become a billionaire. I think so. I mean, when you really think about it, and when I say billionaire, like a direct billionaire, I know there's like a few like kind of creatives that became a billionaire because of the ridiculous industry that they benefited from, like someone like a Paul McCartney or something like that. But someone like a Jeff Bezos, who is a billionaire through his own planning, basically, to get to that level. I mean, keep up. We're talking billions. We're talking billions, not millionaire. We're talking billions. You screwed over so many people in the process.
And the only proof that you need that they're genuinely sociopathic is that they've got, they have like hundreds of billions of dollars. Gee, what do I do with hundreds of? I know. I'll start fucking space company.
Yeah.
They don't say like, I'll end world hunger, or I'll deal with climate change, or I'll make life better for the poors that I had to step on to get here. That's not anywhere in their brain, right? They say, I'll make a fucking space company that has rockets that look like penises. And that's what they do. And
it did look like a dick, big time. Totally.
I mean, look at the Amazon symbol. Look at his bald head. There's something about that guy and penises.
Well, that's why, like, whenever someone tried to blackmail him, he was like, "Yeah, go ahead, release that dick pic. I don't care. Let the world see it. I was gonna put it on Prime. I don't give a shit."
It's weird. It's very weird. But anyway, yeah, I do think that they're sociopathic. At the same time, they don't think they're the bad guys. They are not going to be agents for change. That is clear. And there's a direct link between this disease of this social disease of billionairism, and the ecological emergency that we're currently in, right? You don't have an apple tree or a raspberry bush say, like, I'm going to keep all of my apples or my raspberries to myself, then I'm going to get all the other apples in the world and keep them to myself. It's just not how nature works whatsoever. So this hoarding of resources, this hoarding of energy that's represented by those numbers in the database is it's like a gravitational, it's like a black hole collapsing in on itself, getting more and more capital, then influencing the political system, influencing the cultural system, until it collapses in on itself. When what we really need to do is to distribute that wealth and use it to completely change our infrastructure and kind of come back into harmony with this planet as a species. The indigenous peoples they had a word for this. They called it Wendigo, which means, it was in several North American tribes. It was this mythical figure, this kind of zombie-like creature that was kind of an undead thing that was so full of its own hunger and greed that it was this cannibal that would go never satisfied, right? Never satiated, keep eating and eating and eating. When in those cultures, a lot of them, there's this very deep sense of, only taking what you need from the land, and doing that also with respect, right? And then leaving enough for other people and for other beings, the plants and the other animals in the local watershed, for example. So there's I do believe that there's a real sort of sickness in our society, which is this idea that you want to get yours and you want to take as much as you can, and then all these people that aren't billionaires sort of defending the billionaires because they have that, they've so kind of deeply indoctrinated with that sense of, like, that's the way, that's the way things should work, right? Just you take as much as you can and screw everyone else.
Yeah, it's just a system. That's just the way it is. They're just good business people.
It's not right. It's not the way nature works at all. And it turns out, surprise, surprise, we happen to be mammals living in a natural system, just like any other species on this planet. We can go into overshoot. We can run out of food. We can, suddenly realize that the environment that we inhabit is just too hot for our bodies to deal with and start dropping dead, just like any other species, like coral reefs, lodgepole pines. A few days ago, I was walking through the High Sierra, and the amount of dead brown trees. It's been a couple of years since I was in the High Sierra, and the last time I was there, I did not see tree mortality like this. But just walking through there and just dead tree after dead tree, large numbers of dead trees. We walked 65 miles, and the whole way it was just dead trees. There's some live trees too, but just so many baby trees that are half brown, half green, because they've only started dying really recently. I don't know. It breaks my heart. I don't know what else to say sometimes.
Sure. No, I feel you, man. There are times where my friends who are scientists kind of are somewhat concerned sometimes, and probably a little annoyed by me too, because they just get panic texts randomly where I'm just like, are we gonna be are we okay? So sticking with Miami for a second though, if we act, can we potentially save these kind of close coastal cities? And if not, how long do you think we have until a place like Miami is uninhabitable?
Yeah, I don't think we can, in my opinion. And it's not, I study ecosystems, and before that I was studying clouds. So it's not really, sea level rise isn't my area of main expertise. But I do know that we have several meters of sea level rise essentially locked in now. So, unless you build seawalls around these kinds of places that are multiple meters high, which in my opinion, a place like Miami is just too expensive, and then you have to worry about water kind of coming in from underneath because it's a very porous it's not like I don't know what exactly the geology, but it's not like granite, foundations or bedrock or anything. It's a much more porous situation. So I don't personally see that there's any practical way to save at least parts of Miami that are the lowest lying, that are already seeing the sunny day flooding. When it's going to become abandoned, I am 99.9% personally confident that it will be abandoned at some point, probably in our lifetimes. Exactly when that happens, I can't say. It depends on how much they invest in trying to stave things off for a little bit longer.
Well, like when you say a little bit longer, I mean, what's like would you say 10 years, 20 years?
Very, very hard to make a prediction like
Okay.
that. Yeah, I would say within our lifetimes. And
Okay.
I will also say that all of these impacts just keep coming faster than I expected. And I think a lot of scientists have that same subjective sense that like holy shit, this is not something that we thought we'd have to be living through yet. It felt like that was going to happen in a few decades, this or thing or that thing, the Arctic ice getting to a certain extent, or fires in California like we saw in 2020, and now I'm afraid that 2021 could be even worse on the West Coast, because the drought is just it's unprecedented in the kind of the data record that we have. We haven't seen anything like the depth of extreme and the extent, the area affected by the most extreme levels of drought. It's just and the drought means dry fuel. Heat waves come along. It means just easier ignition and even more drying of the fuel. And you just have all you need is a little spark, and you're going to have really big forest fire. And the ignition sources, the lightning, the cigarette butts or whatever, they're always just kind of like they're just always sort of there, right? So it's more about the fuel conditions and temperatures. And I'm just extremely worried that we're going to be living on the West Coast, living through another massive inferno season. And if we get super lucky in 2021, then how many times do we roll the dice and keep getting lucky, right? When the dice keep getting loaded more and more against us by global heating.
So what is the solution then for
Sorry.
no. I mean,
I'm just the messenger. It's the physics and then it's really the fossil fuel industry that you guys ought to be blaming, not me.
no, of course. I mean,
Yeah.
well, as far as
I
fires,
hate being the messenger, though. That's all I'm saying.
I can only imagine.
You
But as far as the fires are concerned, especially here in California, a lot of that has to do with, again, capitalism, not investing into the power grid the way we should have, because they want to protect their bottom line. PG&E got away with a lot. So what are some ways we can kind of fight this to the best of our ability? I mean, I know there's some things out of our control, like we don't get any freaking rain, but there's also some things we can do. And what are some of those things?
So this discussion comes up with coral reefs sometimes. Some people, develop schemes for, trying to cool down the waters or this or that. But in my opinion, there's just one thing, bottom line. We gotta kill the fossil fuel industry as quickly as we can. And, to me, that's what's driving all of this stuff. And anything else we do, fixing power lines or whatever like that it's just putting little band-aids on a severed arm. So you gotta deal with the root cause, which is around 70% of this global heating, I think. So roughly like that, about 15 or 20% is animal agriculture, but the big piece of it is the fossil fuel industry. And until we end that, and completely get off of fire, not just like stabilize it to a flat level, but we have to completely get off of it. And this should be a life or death priority for us, in my opinion. We should divert the remaining carbon budget, see fossil fuel as this incredibly precious life support substance that we use to basically stay alive until we have enough, alternatives, renewables to run everything, right? But we shouldn't be using it frivolously for things like flying on vacations or having a commercial airline. In my opinion, we're in such a deep emergency right now that the commercial airline industry should just be ended, like today. No one would die if that happens. All right. We don't actually, people think they need airplanes, but they don't. It's just more like that's culturally what they're used to. It's really nice. They really don't want to like not have to see this person for a lot. They want to be able to visit, and they don't want to spend a week to get there. But guess what? Having a habitable planet is worth more than being able to get someplace in a few hours as opposed to a few days. So yeah, we need to really prioritize, in my opinion, and go into basically life support mode, where we support the food system and the water system and critical infrastructure, hospitals with fossil fuel, while we transition as quickly away from them as we possibly can. But again, that's just my opinion, and that's what I mean by we need a critical mass of people to wake up before these sorts of what are considered radical solutions could ever start to happen, right? I think the vast majority of the public is still in sort of incremental mode, and they don't realize how serious this is yet.
Yeah, I mean, but it's so not radical to say we need to get off fossil fuels and commit to alternatives. Like that is not, at least in my opinion, and maybe this is just like the lanes in which we occupy, but that is just, to me, that isn't. I think it's more radical, quote unquote, to think, oh, if by 2050, if you're not in a gasoline powered car, we're gonna be just fine. That's bullshit. That's just kicking a can down the road.
Complete bullshit. Well, and people say, oh yeah, we need to end the fossil fuel industry. We have to transition to renewables. Super easy to say that, but then they get on an airplane. So they're not willing to act like what they're actually saying, right? Because again, like I said, our society does not need airplanes. The airline companies and the fossil fuel industry would like you to believe that we do need airlines. But it's, we don't. Like our grandparents, our great grandparents lived perfectly well without commercial airlines. So, and when you say we shouldn't have airplanes, everyone freaks out. So they'll say, yeah, we should end transition away from fossil fuels. But then if you point out like, oh, well, airplanes run on fossil fuels and there's no fossil fuel free alternative for them yet, so we'd have to take those away, then they freak out. So that's what I mean. The brain kind of rationalizes. There's different levels of acceptance and there's different levels of denial, right?
Well,
you don't have to say it's not happening to be in denial, right? Like you can say, oh yeah, we don't have to ban fracking, or we can keep subsidizing the fossil. That's also a form of denial. An editor with an article about a heat wave, showing like kids playing at a beach, that's the photo they run. That's a form of climate denial, right? They'll agree that the science is real, but there's at some level they haven't fully accepted what a genuine emergency we're in.
I don't know if I understand the kids playing at a beach connection, but I might have missed something. Like, well, because kids are still able to play at a beach, or what?
No, like you're an editor at the New York Times, and your reporter writes an article about a heat wave, and it's a front page article.
And it's kids playing at a beach. Okay,
you need to pick some photograph to run with it. Well, like 90% of the time, those photographs are kids playing in a fountain or people lying. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And in fact, it's a heat emergency where people are dying, but they don't show ambulances and flashing lights and old people on stretchers. Like those are the kinds of photos they should be showing.
Sure. No. Okay. I get you there. I wasn't. Yeah. Because I was going to say, I still enjoy the beach, and I don't think I'm denying anything. I'm just thinking, God, I hope generations after me can enjoy this too, because this is a wonderful thing.
I'm just trying to point out that there are more shades of climate denial than just the Republican, it's a hoax kind. That's all.
Well, yeah, no. And that is fair. Now, I mean, one thing I would say, there is a huge, world of magnitude between the small handful of companies that are destroying this planet and if Joe America, takes a vacation once a year. So like, I get what you're saying, but if nothing is done about the former, the latter doesn't really mean much. I mean, a family of 4 getting on a plane once a year to go visit their grandparents versus a handful of companies are destroying this planet and are responsible for 70% of the pollution.
It's not these so-called individual actions. They're not a solution. They won't solve the problem. We need to end the fossil fuel industry. But I'm just saying that, I haven't been on a plane since 2012, and it's not because I think it's going to, solve this. It's because I see burning fossil fuel as directly causing death and suffering. And to me, to to voluntarily and in an unnecessary way, in a way that just benefits me, to participate in that and to contribute to that feels disgusting. So if I got on a plane now, I'd probably start vomiting because I've got 2 kids and I know, their future is looking, frankly, not so great climate wise. And so for me to get on a plane, either to further my career or to go on vacation, both of which are, in my opinion, selfish acts at this point in a climate emergency, I just wouldn't choose to do it. And so I'm just saying that I think, again, it's a sort of climate denial to be like, oh, I can slip in one more plane ride. What's the big deal? It's only a little bit of carbon. That's a non-emergency way of like looking at this. It's like, again, kind of kicking the can down the road. If your house is on fire, you don't just like kind of keep doing what you were doing for another 2 hours before you call the fire department. You change. You make a change, you respond, and that's what I'm still not seeing a lot of people doing, because we've grown up with fossil fuels our whole life. It's still people still post their vacations on Instagram. You still get social rewards.
Yeah, I mean, do you see how maybe
fossil fuels?
Yeah, I mean, okay.
We need to take away the social license. We need to make it seem like really uncool to be Now I know it's impossible to go to zero.
But do you see how maybe you'd also be turning people off if you're equating someone who goes on a vacation once a year to, again, the companies that are destroying?
I'm not. It's the last thing I'm doing is equating them. I'm not equating them. I'm just saying that again, there's shades of denial, and that if once you realize what an emergency this is, you start to make changes. It's not a solution. The solution is ending the fossil fuel industry.
Right.
So what I'm saying is that there's still a large fraction of the population which thinks that we just need a few more solar panels and windmills and things are going to be fine.
They don't understand the severity of how
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, we have to. Okay. Things have to. We've waited so long. We procrastinated for decades. That sort of incremental solution set would have been possible, say, in the 90s, and we've just burned way past that now. And we're already California was on fire in 2020. We're already seeing these like incredibly costly and life-threatening impacts. That's all I'm saying. So you weigh that against using fossil fuel for things, for example, that aren't uses that keep people alive. It's a hard sell. I'll probably get a lot of flack for saying that kind of thing, but it's hard seeing stuff like this before the majority of people see it. And I'll take a lot of hits for that. And 10 years from now, when everyone else is on the same wavelength I'm on, it's not like they'll be like, oh, he was right, we owe him, we should have. They'll never say that, but it's okay, because I don't do this for me at all. I'm doing this this will sound cheesy, but I'm doing this for the earth. I'm doing this for my kids. I'm doing this for other people's kids. I'm doing this for coral reefs and lodgepole pines and giant sequoias, and I can take I guess I can take the hate. People want to eat their meat. They want to fly. I get that. It's just those are fairly easy changes to make. I'm not saying that there's solutions. I'm just saying that we keep acting like we're not an emergency. I don't know. I can't. Maybe I'm not articulating it well. I didn't really want to go down this rabbit hole, but somehow here we are.
Yeah. I mean, well, I didn't bring it up, but so let's go to the Northwest then, because I lived in Seattle in 2007 to about 2010, and I want to say it was the last summer I was there, so I want to say 2009. They had this heat wave, and a lot of people said, I've never seen anything like this. Like native Northwesterners were like, we've never had anything like this in my lifetime that I remember. And because people don't really have air conditioning up there, I didn't have it. And it was a brutal week. Now that sort of thing is an annual thing up there. And they're going through it right now. Seattle and Portland. And I don't know if Vancouver is too. I'm not sure. Are they? Yeah. They're part of it too. So
100%.
Pretty much the entire Northwest is going through this crazy heat wave. And I think it kind of ends in Southern Oregon a little bit. But anyway, so what is the cause of that? Like, why is that now a regular thing? Is it just the global heating, or are there a couple other factors at play there for that particular region?
Yeah, so to zeroth order, it's just, global heating is what's causing it. So you take, weather is a distribution of temperature, for example, right, and other environmental variables. You take that whole distribution, that whole bell curve, and you shift it towards higher temperatures, then you're just, much more, the way the bell curve is shaped, your extremes, the frequency that you experience some of those extreme temperatures goes up, more than other parts of the bell curve. You just, things that were extremely rare in the past start to become very, very common, even with relatively small shifts of that bell curve. So that's the main thing, and that's what's driving most of the heat that in different regions of the world, and the worsening heat. And then you also get teleconnections. Atmospheric dynamics are changes in the jet stream, which can cause high pressure systems to sit over the region for longer, just kind of like capping that area with heat. So that's another factor. And then a third factor is just the built environment. The more black pavement and rooftops you have, the fewer trees and urban centers, you can get a large boost in extreme heat in urban cores because of just having more absorptive surfaces like black top, which gets if you ever you get out in a big parking lot, you can feel the extra heat there.
Jeez. Wow. Whew. Yeah, that's heavy. So
It is. That's why I'm saying, like, we really should be getting the pitchforks and finishing off the fossil fuel industry, because it's that bad. I don't know what it's going to take to. I don't know if that's how it's going to go down, or if we'll be able to handle this through electoral politics. It's starting to feel less likely to me every year.
well,
I don't know how that's going to go down, but
well, let me ask you this, because and we've actually kind of talked about this before, but I want to revisit it. Um, if we had to solely rely on electoralism in the United States, I would say we are hopeless. I would say we're done. It's over. But this is a world problem. And there's other places in the world, Denmark, Norway, there's other places in the world that are taking better action. So I kind of have a little bit of hope. And again, we're just talking on the electoral side of the coin. I do have a little bit of hope that the world will take better action and the United States will be, basically drug along, kicking and screaming. Is there any, does that track?
I mean, I think so. I haven't given up hope yet. It's a human caused problem, and it's sort of, I guess, kind of horrifically fascinating the way the U.S. is lagging behind Europe, for example, in so many ways, in terms of responding to climate and ecological breakdown. I mean, Europe still has a far way to go too, but there's certain elements, I think, of American exceptionalism, sort of American individualism, this sense of, kind of, America being the place where we have all the resources, we can do what we want. I don't know exactly what it is, but we're definitely lagging behind. But this is it's a human caused problem, and it's if it was a comet coming, then yeah, I'd say we were fucked. But it's a human caused problem, and all we have to do is stop doing what's causing it, and it'll stabilize. Sure. That's it. It's that simple.
Well, we are arguably one of the most propagandized nations on earth. I don't think that's even an embellishment at this point, where, when you have a cable news industrial complex that is funded by these fossil fuel companies that you love so much, you're not going to hear much about climate change. And I think that's a big part of the problem. When has MSNBC invited you on? How about CNN? How about Fox News? Are any of them calling you?
Probably not after this interview.
Probably not ever, man.
But yeah, probably not ever. There's and the Rupert Murdoch empire has done incalculable damage, I think, in terms of brainwashing people around this problem. And yeah, the first step is we have to agree that there's a real problem, and we have to agree that we should prioritize it. And that's where we're still at right now, even as things burn and melt around us. So yeah, I feel like one of my goals, like one of my objectives, one of the ways that I spend my time is to try to wake as many people up as quickly as I can. I don't know if I'm doing that effectively or not. Sometimes I can't really tell, but that's my theory of change. We don't get out of this by. I don't feel like we get out of this when policymakers say, "Oh, we have a problem, we should fix it." We get out of this when policymakers say, like, "I'm going to lose my freaking job unless I stop just like bullshitting about this and actually do something." And we're just not there yet. So
totally.
Yeah.
Well, so let's get a little bit, just to close out here. Let's get a little bit contemporary, and feel free to just laugh in my face when I ask you this, but or try to just give an objective answer. What's your take on how the Biden administration has been on climate so far?
Yeah. I sort of feel a little bit like, then this was what I was afraid of kind of during the campaign, that it's a little bit like Obama 2.0, where, there's the official, as far as I know, the official Democratic policy platform is still, we're going to subsidize the fossil fuel industry. We're not going to ban fracking. They've been silent as far as
he promised. That was his only promise.
It was his big promise. Read my lips. We will not ban fracking.
Yeah.
They've been silent or maybe tacitly supportive on the Line 3 pipeline. And they killed Keystone, but it was already a dead horse. So there was no political capital to be spent there. So some of the initial executive decisions were good. So, the first few days, I probably would have, if I'd been in office, I would have done very similar things the first few days. But I don't see the bully pulpit being used. I don't see climate as being the top priority. I don't see, the Democrats coming together to say, like, this is a planetary problem. It's our top priority. We're going to do this. It seems radical, but we're going to do it anyway. I don't see that happening. I see, some of the right words being said, but I don't get the sense that the fossil fuel industry is shivering in its boots and worried that it's going to be taken down. And that's what we need. We basically need an anti-corporate government at this point. And I'm still seeing a pro-corporate government.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's putting it gently. I mean, pro-corporate, and synonymous with that is just pro-war. I mean, they just dropped bombs in Syria and Iraq, and the war economy is a big part of this too. Because what funds that? Well, the fossil fuel industry. That's war is, again, one of the biggest pollutants in the world.
And why do we
disgusting?
And why do we go to war in the Middle East?
Oil.
There's one reason, which is money, and that money comes from the oil and from the munitions, right?
Yeah, so it's one big circle of garbage that we're just stuck in, and you don't see anyone in the electoral realm calling for the systemic change we need. And so, yeah, it's got to come from the people. And
they're very rare, the real sort of elected policymakers who do things because they want to do the right thing, right? Mike Gravel passed away yesterday, right?
He was one of the few.
One of the few. Bernie in his prime, he was willing to speak truth to power, but it's incredibly rare, and they tend to get pushed aside get
pushed aside, and they get put in, and they're given a choice. It's, you either play ball our way and we'll throw you some crumbs, or we're just going to eventually get you out of here. That's how it went down for Mike. I mean, I can't wait to read Dennis Kucinich's new book, because I think he breaks all that down. I mean, there's another prime example. That guy tried to do the right thing. They eventually got him out of there. That's how the system works. That's just the
because
reality.
Again, it's been completely warped by the influence of corporate money and billionaire wealth. So it's like a black, the way I think of it. So I came up through gravitational astrophysics, like before I switched into earth science. The way I think of it is literally like a black hole. It's just it's a financial the system has its own kind of gravity, which is called capital, which accrues more capital through interest until it gets so big that it starts warping culture and politics and society. And that's where we're at now. And it's just very, very hard to, once you've allowed that black hole to get as big as it is, it's so powerful that it's hard to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's just the way I see it. I think, if enough people wake up and get super angry, that's in my opinion, that's.
Well, I didn't bring you on to cheer everybody up. I mean, I brought you in because it was high time for a climate update, and I do appreciate someone that doesn't sugarcoat it, which you don't. But what I do appreciate about you is that you also, I mean, what's the phrase that they use? Black pill, right? Is that what they call it? Where it's like, like you're not hopeless, basically, is what I'm not sure if I'm using that phrase correctly. So don't, if that's not what that actually means, like sorry everybody, but I
get what you're saying. I'm going to keep fighting to the end, Ron. That's just, I can't not do it.
Well, in grad school, I was taught, and I don't think this is like commonly accepted vernacular, but I was taught this in grad school, that there is such a thing as constructive cynicism. And constructive cynicism, like the synonym for that is actually just realism, where you're just addressing what something is and what's going on, and you don't bullshit people about it. That's basically what it is. Obviously, that's not the jargon they use in the academic world, but that is what it is definitionally. And unconstructive cynicism, or just like straight up, like I forget what they call it, like unproductive or something like that. But that brand of cynicism is the stuff that isn't constructive, and that isn't, and that's just kind of like, well, we're screwed, so screw it, and screw you, and whatever. So, I appreciate you being the former.
Thank you, man. And in my opinion, there's too many climate communicators out there who try to like massage the message, and they don't want to scare people. And so they, I just say the truth unvarnished as I see it. And I think that's probably the best strategy. So kind of the only, maybe I have a weird something in my brain, but that's the only thing I really can do. And I also think that's the best thing to do. So that's pretty much it. I'm just going to say the truth.
I mean, it's not going to get you. It's not going to get you on cable news, but it'll. You're invited here anytime you want. So
Thanks, Ron.
You got that going, Peter. Where can people go to learn more? Shout out some resources. Shout out where people can follow you, and all the above.
Probably most active on Twitter at Climate Human. I've got a website. I've also got a book called Being the Change, Live Well and Spark a Climate Revolution from 2017, and working on another one. So if I ever can carve enough time away from the research. So.
All right, Peter. Well, thank you for being so generous for your time with your time, and thank you for coming back. And we'll have to do this. We'll have to do this again. You're my climate guy. Like, I got some of my like people where it's like, this is my MMT guy, this is my electoralism person, this is my climate person. And so thank you for illuminating some of the stuff going on. And everyone follow Peter at Climate Human. And one quick thing before I let you go, do you have any pets?
I do have a little dog.
Oh, cool. What's the dog's name?
Mitzi.
All right, so we give a shout out to the pets at the end of my show, Peter. Okay. Captain Waffles, thank you for the super chat contribution. You say have Caleb Maupin on. You can DM him on Twitter. Cool. I've heard a lot of good things about him. I've watched his show before. It'd be cool to talk to him. Mitzi says wolf, and Lucy says meow, and Peter says peace and act now to save the climate, and I say peace and act now to save the climate.
Stay cool, everyone.
Stay cool, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace.